Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to CPD Month webinars. And tonight I have Alice. And Alice is a Google Innovator and Trainer. She has been teaching English for the past 9 years. And today she's the head of Innovation Technology Department at ICBEU SJCampos. So, welcome, Alice. How are you today? How are you feeling tonight
Hello.
for this live?
I'm cold. It's a great winter night. I'm feeling awesome. I'm really happy for this invitation. I really appreciate it because I love Braille and all its what it represents.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being with us, really, because as we were just talking about it, it's an opportunity for teachers to get to know some areas that are not so well represented sometimes in ELT in conferences. We don't see that as much as we should. So for me, design thinking, for example, is something new. So I'm going to learn a lot tonight as well. So thank you for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So guys, you guys watching here tonight, I want to thank you for being here. And I would like to ask you to do one tiny favor for me. Engage, ask questions. You can write your questions on the chat at YouTube. That Priscilla is going to read them at the end, but engage, ask question, comment. If you have already used the design thinking, let me know. Share your experience with this mindset. Okay, so I'm going to start by sharing my screen. It's going to look weird a little bit, but bear with me. And I'm here today to talk about design thinking and what it is. Most of you have already heard of it, but not many has used. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the principles of design thinking and how you can adopt this mindset. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to do any hands-on activity. But if you're interested, we can, I can show you some material. I'm gonna share some books that I have used to learn about it. So the content of today's webinar is what design thinking is and what it's not, because many people are confused about it, and I think it's important to make it clear what it is and what it's not. Why we should adopt design thinking and how we can adopt design thinking in our lessons, in our teaching practice. So I'm going to start with what design thinking is not a methodology. I'm sorry, I started with what it's not. Okay, so design thinking is not a methodology. Many people get confused that design thinking is a methodology, is a step-by-step process, but in fact, it's not. Design thinking is an approach, it's not a methodology. So it means that design thinking is a very broad concept. We can even say it's broader than an approach. It's a mindset. It's a way to think about something. So it's a mindset of creative problem solving. So we use design thinking to solve problems in a creative way, and we can apply this to absolutely everything in your life. So when we talk about education specifically, it's even more important to use design thinking because, as I mentioned, it's a mindset, it's a way of thinking. So anything that you can do inside this mindset is considered design thinking. So it's basically when we design the way you think, a mindset. It is not an approach, it's not a process, it's not a step by step, it's not a set of tools that it uses. And this is something that I've been seeing around. I've been seeing some schools and some institutions selling design thinking as a set of tools that they created. It's okay to create tools, but what I would like you watching me right now, I would like you to think is that once you understand what this mindset is, you can create your own set of tools. You can create your own methodology within this approach. And we are all designers, we are all creative problem solvers. We're teachers after all. You want to see a more creative person in the world than a teacher? Impossible. So instead of following this closed mind people that they create this set of tools, what I would like to do today is to show you what design thinking is, the possibilities that you can do with design thinking, and I would like you to understand that you can do it. Okay, so I'm back a little bit because it's going to be boring if I just leave my slides. So I'm going to talk a little bit with you, go back to the slides. Um, so when I talk about a creative problem solving mindset, what I'm actually saying is that you can develop a way to come up with a solution with your students, or if you're a teacher trainer, with the teachers, if you're a coordinator, as well with the teachers, or even in a team of colleagues, whatever situation you're talking about, you can come together and use human skills to come up with a problem, a solution for a problem that's centered on the user. So usually when we talk about design thinking, even though it was created for big companies to develop products, technology companies, we can use it for everything in our lives. So if you think about a big company called Airbnb, for instance, they created the app because they found that the users, the human behind the problem, they needed a hotel, but not always they could find, or it was very expensive. And sometimes they had an extra room, but they didn't know how to profit from that, and they didn't want to rent for, absolutely strangers without a middleman. So Airbnb created the solution for the user. It's not really a solution based on the technology itself, even though the technology is awesome, I like it, obviously, but it's based on the user. So this is the premise of design thinking. You come up with a solution, usually with the team, so you collaborate with your team, you come up with a creative solution that nobody thought of before, and this solution is for the user. So this is basically what design thinking is. As I said, it's not a methodology, it's not a process. It's a three-stage approach to solve a problem. The first stage is immersion, when we get to know the user, we get to know who has the problem, why this person has a problem, and what is the context of this person, what is the conflict, what are their pains, what do they do, what do they like, how do they feel about something. So we get to know the people behind the problem, and then we get to the second phase, which is in interpretation of this data that we get from the users, and we go to ideation, which is creating the solution itself. So you with your team, or you with another person, sometimes you can even do some design thinking for yourself. It's kind of weird because it's a teamwork, but you can use your alter ego and do it. uh, you get together with your team, and then you start ideating solutions for this problem, the problem that your user has, and the problem to solve that pain of a user. So it's a whole human-centered design. Once you ideate, you got to prototype your idea and test. So that's the last phase. You got to test your idea. When we talk about prototype, this is where people get confused. How can we prototype something in schools? And I think it's absolutely beautiful when we think about prototyping a class. Imagine that you draft a lesson, you have a lesson plan, and you actually prototype it and you test it. So it's a lot of pressure off your shoulders because you're just testing. You know something is gonna go wrong when you're testing something. You're expecting it to go wrong. And this is the beauty of using design thinking in education today. Many people are still afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are not welcome in the classroom, in any classroom, education in general, especially when it comes to teachers being observed. Mistakes are very negative, and it shouldn't be because it's part of the process. We only learn if we make a mistake. Even teachers, we make mistakes all the time. So when we adopt design thinking to education, to an educational context, we're actually embracing failure. And this is beautiful because we gotta teach our children, teach children in general, teach the students that mistakes are not only part of the process, they are the learning step. Before you learn, you gotta make a mistake. Another thing that design thinking is also a when you think about skills today, we're developing lots of skills in the classroom. We think about critical thinking and collaboration, creativity, communication. It's very misunderstood and misused, these skills. When we talk about collaboration, for instance, sometimes teachers put together students to work in pairs and that's it. They collaborated. And it's not collaboration. Pair work's not collaboration. Design thinking allows for collaboration, full collaboration, because your part of the project depends on other people's part of the project as well. This is collaboration. When you work together towards a common goal, not really we do something sitting together or we share a moment there. This is pair work is not really collaborative work. Also, creativity sometimes is very difficult to step away from the comfort zone and think outside the box when you are stuck on a lesson plan that's drafted based on a book that's really square. Design thinking, normally, when you start a lesson using it, you don't know what the students are going to create. It's impossible to write on a lesson plan, okay, now I want the students to do this, this, and that, because you don't know what they're going to create. You don't know what kind of solution they're going to ideate. So this takes you, the teacher, out of the comfort zone because if you don't know, obviously, whatever comes after that, the unexpected results of that, you're gonna have to deal with it. So you gotta be prepared for something that you don't even know what it is. And the students, they're gonna feel more engaged because they're gonna feel free and they're going to have the feeling of control. This is really important, and this is a skill also to be developed in the classroom. When you empower students with the control of their own learning, they feel empowered, they feel responsible. Those are skills that are very difficult to develop in a traditional classroom. When we talk about communication, when you are testing your prototype, how are you going to let your user know what you thought about a good solution? You have to communicate with your user when you're prototyping. And this is another thing that it's important to use with, to adopt design thinking in the classroom, that you can develop this communication that's they are going to communicate with the user. It's totally the students and the user. You're just a facilitator. And this is amazing when we talk about today's classroom, that we talk about student centered, but it's still the teacher is in charge of everything. With design thinking, the teacher really steps away from the process and facilitates everything. I even like to participate a little bit sometimes because it's fun. And then I become more of a student than the students, and it's so much fun. Um, One of the things that design thinking is also, because we're talking about a process, a mindset, not a process, sorry, a mindset that was created outside of the educational context. When we bring it to the educational, we got to adapt one thing, which is the way we assess the students. How do we know that the students are learning? How do we know that they develop the skills necessary? How do we know that by the end of the day they learned, they went to they aimed for the objective, the learning objective that they had in mind, and they got it. So this is something that it's as personal as a lesson plan. How are you going to assess your students? It totally depends on your objective. So you gotta adapt a little bit to design thinking to use in a classroom, but because it wasn't made for a classroom, it was adapted to the classroom. And this mindset was created by Tim Brown. He's an owner of an agency, a design agency called IDEO, and he has been developing projects for design thinking for education in South America, in Peru. He has here in Brazil, he has some projects. And he said that this mindset was created to solve problems outside, to solve problems for design, but it makes so much more sense in the education than it does in other industries. So if you think that the person who created this mindset, the person who created this approach, is not only is he adapting it to the education, but he says that it's already prepared for the education. I don't see why not us using it. So to recap, it is an approach, it's a mindset. It has three phases, which is immersion, when you get to know the user, ideation, when you come up with a solution for the problem, and prototyping, when you prototype a solution and test. We develop skills while we're using it in the classroom. We need to have a learning objective in mind. It could be like a target language, it could be a vocabulary, it could be even a skill. I have used with my students, they needed to develop critical thinking, and they did. At the end of the day, they really, I felt like they were critical thinkers. But the way you're going to assess depends on your objective. So have a learning objective in mind when you go in a classroom trying to use design thinking. I'm gonna share my screen again. Am I sharing? No, not yet. There. Sorry. So let's go for the why. Why should we adopt design thinking? Well, I guess I already answered that, but I'm gonna say that again. Why? Because we are not really teaching anymore. We're facilitating our students or learners to learn. So we are showing people how to learn by themselves. And this is the reason number one why we should adopt design thinking in our classrooms. Because design thinking is a mindset that the students are going to follow some stages, and they're going to come up with a solution. They're going to learn by themselves. Most of the time, they're going to be learning by themselves. So when you give them a user, I'm going to use an example that I've applied in my classroom, and I shared this lesson plan with a colleague, and he applied as well, and it was the same result. It was amazing. I had a bunch of 15-year-old boys develop a face cream for middle-aged women for wrinkles. So they needed to find out about the user, what the user wanted, what were their pains, and then they needed to develop it. They didn't need to develop the face cream itself, they needed to develop the advertisement campaign for this face cream. So I gave them an article to read about women and what they want now. And they interviewed some of my friends. They interviewed me as well, asking what we wanted, what we liked, how we felt when we watched these commercials on TV, what kind of lifestyles we lived. So they started asking this. Then they started ideating a campaign based on the article and based on the interview. They came up with a campaign. They prototyped. So they drew the background of this campaign on a piece of paper. They drew it themselves, like it was a green screen, but it was actually them. And they recorded on their cell phones, uploaded to YouTube, and had like a private video there. And started showing to the women they interviewed and to some other women around the school. I remember they were asking students and they were asking teachers. And then they brought the results to me. So they were talking about how it was a fiasco. Actually, the campaign was horrible. They actually failed, which was amazing because they learned that what they should not do. They learned the aim of the lesson was critical thinking. So they had critical thinking. They had to deal with ambiguity. They had to deal with, I think this is right. And then they realized that it wasn't right. So they had to deal with being wrong. And most, what I did was right at the beginning, I showed them the article and some vocabulary. That's it. Everything else, they were in charge of. The way they learned, of course, I was facilitating, which means I was guiding them towards don't ask this question or watch out for the time, we're running out of time. Because I had to create a process within this approach so they could reach the learning goal that I had for that lesson. But most of the time, most everything they learned by themselves. They did by themselves. They learned by doing. They learned by making a mistake. And they had fun. They had lots of fun. So this is one reason why we should adopt design thinking for education. It's fun. It's out of the box. You are letting your students learn by themselves. You're letting them try, make a mistake, and learn from their mistakes. So you're actually teaching them to learn. You're not really teaching English anymore. Oh, everything that they did was beautiful in English. They used some excellent target language that they were using, that they were learning at that unit. And you get to develop skills. And you get to develop your own skills, as a matter of fact. Because as a teacher, when you watch your students struggling to do something, you run and go and do it for them. But by adopting design thinking, you actually have to step away from it and let them try. You don't know what they're trying, you don't know what they're doing. And this is the beauty of it. So, to recap again, why we should adopt design thinking, we get to develop skills. We get to show our students how they can learn for themselves. So you're creating an environment of independent learners that they can get responsible for their own learning process. You become the facilitator, so it's a fully focused on the student class. It's a lesson that you can just facilitate, guide, watch out for the time. You become a manager of the class. You're not a teacher anymore. And this is a good thing, actually. As a teacher, you get to think outside the box a little bit. You get to be creative as well. You get to try out things that you get to do your own design thinking with your design thinking lesson because you get to try things that you're not sure they're going to work. If they don't, you validate your hypothesis and you try again. And one other reason why we should adopt design thinking is that students we're not preparing students for a test at the end of the semester or the end of the year or a job interview. Sometimes we are for a job interview, but we are preparing students, especially younger ones, for life. We're preparing them to become better people. I love when somebody says that to me. Oh, have you realized that we are teaching kids to learn jobs haven't even existed anymore? I love that because I think, well, when I was born, my job, not only teaching English, but innovation and technology manager didn't exist. So, yes, this is true. We are teaching people that in the future they're going to have jobs that we have no idea. They're going to be learning today. Whatever we're teaching them today is going to have an impact in the future. So, what if we can prepare students by learning the language to become better people? And using design thinking, I guess they become more, they have empathy because they think about other people. They think about the user that they're creating the solution for. And this skill of empathy is the most important skill today. The world that we live in, this scary world that we don't know how we're surviving. I think we can use some empathy here. So this is another reason why. And finally, I'm going to share how we can adopt design thinking in our lessons. So, as I said before, design thinking is a mindset. So, it's a way that you can think of your practice. You can think of your lessons, you can think of everything. In order for you to adopt this mindset, you got to have these principles in your head. Okay. Sometimes it is just a question of thinking differently than what you do right now. So, I'm going to start with empathy. Why is empathy important in design thinking? You are going to create a solution for someone else. So you're going to have to learn about someone else's problems. And you're going to have to create a solution that will fit this other person's needs. So you're totally out of it. You're totally out of the picture. And when I talk about empathy, I always say that it's a two-way street because you got to know about who you're dealing with, your user, as well as you. It's a introspection as well as getting to know other people. Because empathy is putting yourself in other person's shoes, but do you know the size of your shoes? If you can fit in there, for you to have good empathy, you gotta know yourself. You gotta have some self knowledge, what you're capable of. So you can think of yourself in another person's shoes. And this is something important today for the students, especially younger ones. I teach teenagers mostly, so I think of teenagers, but adults could use it, kids could use it, teachers could use it, and I use it with the teachers as well when I do my trainings. Empathy is an exercise of self knowledge plus getting to know the other. That's it. Optimism because you are creating a solution. But by creating that solution, you're making the world a better place. You gotta think of yourself as a superhero. Because if we solve one problem at a time, we're gonna make the world a better place. We don't need to think about the other problems that are gonna, you know, you're gonna have other problems along the way. But if you think about the solution and how it can help other people, that's it, optimism. You gotta embrace ambiguity. So, not everybody agrees with each other, not everybody agrees with everyone, and you gotta disagree with yourself sometimes. And this is a very difficult thing we see today happening, especially in social media with the whole politics and even Avengers, who is the best, and my God, it's so difficult to have no ambiguity in life today. So when you start using design thinking, you have to think of your opinion as fluid. It's going to change. It's liquid. It's going to shape up, in many ways. Like Bruce Lee said, be water. We got to be water. We got to embrace ambiguity. We got to start doing it. We got to start a project immediately. So the whole idea of make it is to just start. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. It doesn't matter if it's beautiful or not. It doesn't matter if it's right or not. Getting it started is more important than being right. This is a motto of an agency of a friend of mine in Berlin. And this is a motto that I embraced for life. Just do it. What if it's wrong? If it's wrong, you validate what is wrong and you try again. Life is all about being wrong and trying again. So just start, make it. And talking about being wrong, we gotta learn from failure. Failure is not only welcome, failure is an important part of the process in design thinking. We have to fail because design thinking is a way to validate hypothesis. So when you think of a solution for the user, you don't know if the solution is the best one. How are you going to know if it's the best one? You're going to test, you're going to prototype, and you're going to test. When you prototype and you test, you're going to learn what went well and what didn't. If everything went right the first time, there was something wrong because it can't be right the first time. You gotta improve it. I like to use the iPhone example. Remember when the iPhone was released in 2008 and they did it? It was beautiful. Imagine if they launched it and everybody loved it and they thought, okay, the first time we did was right, moving on, next to product, and they completely forgot about the iPhone. So thinking about trying again, thinking about failure is not only what went right or wrong, it's what you can improve on. And everything can be improved on, including ourselves. So we have to learn from failure. Iterate is the key word in design thinking as well. It's not iterate, okay? It's iterate. It means that we gotta go back in the process. So when we go all the way through the phases of immersion, in interpretation, ideation, we prototype, we test it. Okay, we validated what was beautiful and what can be improved. And then what do? We gotta go back in the beginning. No project is linear and it goes from the phases and it finishes there. We gotta keep on going back. And actually, this is another reason why we English teachers should adopt design thinking. Language is iteration. We iterate language all the time. We teach the same thing over and over from different perspectives. So it's pretty much like language. A project is like language. When you teach something, they learn, it's beautiful. If they made a mistake, you gotta go back in the process and teach again. If they didn't make a mistake, either way, you go back in the process and we teach in a different way. This is how we teach present continuous first as temporary action that you do at the moment, and then we teach as future, and then there are several ways to teach the same target language. So iteration in design thinking, in the learning process, in coming up with the solution, and in language learning is super important. By having all of these, you're going to create your own creative confidence when you are ready to work with a team to come up with a creative solution. And many teachers, they don't see themselves as creative teachers, and this saddens me a lot because everybody has already created something in their life. So creativity is something human. It's part of being human. You are creative because you are human. And when we say it, we are creative, we think of the characteristic of our personality, but it's kind of wrong to think like that. You are creative, it's a temporary state of mind. It's like happiness. I am happy. Am I happy all the time? No, if something happens that makes me sad, I'm going to be sad. I'm happy right now. So you can say that you are creative. You are creative at that moment. Even if you're not creative, when we work in teams and we work in collaboration, we can help each other be creative. So, for instance, if you have a friend and let's say that you like the color blue, and not my case, I like black only, but you imagine that I'm wearing blue nail polish. And then I show my blue nail polish to a person that thinks about something that this person saw that was blue a long time ago, and this something triggers a memory that drives this person to be creative. I'm not being creative, but I'm helping somebody else being creative. So this creative confidence is something that is super important to have as well when we are adopting design thinking in our lessons. So basically, design thinking is a mindset that you need to have these principles in mind when you go into a classroom, and you can totally do it. Anybody can develop a lesson using design thinking today. I think I talked too much. Priscilla, let's go for the questions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Are there many
Okay,
questions?
thank you so much. First of all, thank you a lot because I've learned a lot. And I had no idea it was a mindset rather than a methodology. I don't know. I've always thought that it was a kind of step by step process of following like a framework or something. I don't know, but I
Yeah.
don't know much about it. I've learned a lot. So thank you so much.
There are some
Um,
schools that they're adopting design thinking as a methodology. There are other
mhm,
methodologies within design thinking. Design sprint is one of them. It's what I work with. It's a methodology
mhm.
inside of design thinking. So you have a design thinking as a broader circle, and within that circle, you can create your own methodology.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. That's really new to me. So thank you so much for introducing that to me. Let's check what we have there on YouTube. So uh, we had you asked about assessing students, right? How you assess achievements and how you set goals and objectives to and how do you assess if you achieved that, right? So I had the same kind of question, and Tasia, she answered that it was through observation during the lessons, commenting on students' jobs and formal evaluations. So I don't remember the exact question you asked. I just got like the main idea, but you were like reflecting on and having these different questions about assessing objectives and assessing achievements. So that's how Tasia measures student achievements. Do you have any comments?
It's awesome by observation. You can do peer observation as well. You can do peer assessment at the end of the lesson. However, you're going to assess your student depends on your learning objective. So, what do you want your students to learn? If you want your students to learn vocabulary, did they use the vocabulary? Did they use it correctly, accurately, fluently? And how are you going to assess? You're going to have a formal, formative assessment, or you're going to have a summative assessment. You're going to give a feedback on the use of vocabulary. So the sky's the limit. And this is one thing I like dealing with assessment, because we got to step away from the formal assessment. And design thinking forces you to step away from the formal assessment because it's not a formal way of teaching. So that's a great idea, Tassia, to have like students, just a student observation. You observe the student, take notes. You can even record a little feedback, audio or video, and then give it to the students later on, like a flipped classroom kind of feedback. It's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm. Nice. Also, I have a question actually,
Go
because
for
as
it.
I said, that's very new to me. So I don't know if this is kind of stupid question or something,
There are
but
no silly questions.
just a minute. Sorry, my computer was just going crazy right now. Just yeah, now it's working fine. Uh, so design thinking, you said that it kind of works in many contexts, like for companies, schools, for education, for businesses. Uh, how do you think we can implement design thinking in education in Brazil in regular schools, more or language schools? Do you think there's a difference between implementing it in these different contexts in education in Brazil?
Well, when we think about regular schools, we think about trans subject projects. You know, you got to think of using different disciplines in the same project. So by using design thinking, you can have a one project monthly, weekly, by semester. So you have a project that it can develop with other teachers, and you can use languages plus math, science, even technology. You can use it all together to come up with one project. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you think about why did I ever learn math in school? I never use it for anything in my life. You're kind of giving a purpose for the student to learn math or science or physics. All the time, students ask me, why do I have to learn physics? And I say, well, you're going to use it in life, but they don't know how. Design thinking can connect what they're learning with real life problems. And the beauty is that we all have heard of project based learning and how we can develop a project. Instead of developing a long project without any step by step, we can use design thinking to come up with a problem, with a project. So several teachers working together within the same problem, but each of them adding whatever they need to teach so the student can solve the problem. National Geographic uses these in their framework. They love mixing different disciplines. And English schools, especially when we talk about bilingual schools today, we can all get together and teach several things at once within the same design of a solution. So this is one thing that I see it happening. I've been applying it in a public school here where I live in Jacareí, and I've applied with the teachers. It works. So it works with teacher education as well, professional development. And I've taught the teachers to apply with their children. They're going to do it this next semester. They haven't done it yet. So I cannot wait to share the results. I think it's going to work. I hope it does. So,
I really want to know as well.
yeah, we're going to record everything and I'm going to share because it's today we
Mhm.
cannot teach separately. Now it's time to learn Portuguese. Now it's time to learn math. This is why students have such trouble with Enem, for instance. They cannot read the
Mhm.
text to solve the math problem because they need Portuguese for that. So now teachers are understanding the importance of getting all the disciplines together to have one single solution at the end.
Interesting. That's really nice. I'm really interested about design thinking now. So thank you for opening that door for me.
Sure. I'm going
So
to
do you
leave
have?
on the
Yeah,
description of the video. I'm going to leave some links to help teachers find tools to understand a little better the stages. But feel free to come up with your own set of tools. Feel free to invent. Because I think it's all
that's
about being creative. I'm going to also leave a link to a book that taught me all about design thinking. And if you guys have any questions, you just leave a comment there and I'll answer later on.
nice. Thank you so much for that. Do you have any final comments, any final thoughts you want to share with us?
My cough is not the final comment. Okay. Well, I hope that you teachers, I know it's scary. It's something new. It's something that it's starting to get a little bit of hype here in Brazil, but I hope you guys want to learn more and use it in the classroom because it really has taken me away from my comfort zone, way far from my comfort zone. Sorry. So when it comes to
No
CPD,
problem.
design thinking really showed me a way to develop professionally. I feel like I'm crying, but it's not. It's just I'm coughing.
Yeah, it's just a coffee. Well, so thank you so much. And we hope to see you soon for more webinars because it was very enlightening. And you opened a really big door in my head for design thinking right now. And
Wow.
for all of you there, we have more CPD month webinars. And we hope to see you soon for more CPD, free CPD. So, good night, everyone. Thank you again, Alice. It was amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you,
And see
everyone.
you all
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye.